Hello everybody, my name is Rob, welcome to the Kinetic Rugby League YouTube channel. I'm going to be bringing you some Rugby League World Cup news over the coming months, and yesterday we got an announcement from Samoa as they've released their World Cup squad for the upcoming tournament. Let's take a look. So here we have the World Cup squad for Samoa. It includes Josh Aloe, Famanu Brown, Stephen Crichton, Matthew Feagai, Braden Hamlin-Uele, Chanel Harris-Tavita, Royce Hunt, Oregon Kafusi, Luciano Leilua, Spencer Linyu, Danny Levy, Jerome Luai, Taylor May, Tyrone May, Anthony Milford, Josh Papali'i, Junior Paulo, Jaden Sewer, Joseph Suwali, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidel, Isaac Tango, Martin Tapau, Brian To'o, and Kelma Tuolangi. So I've made a couple of notes on this Samoa World Cup team. The first one I want to go into is the coaching aspect. Now, it was recently announced that Lee Radford would become the assistant coach of Samoa. Now, for anyone that isn't aware of who Lee Radford is, he's the head coach of the Castleford Tigers in Super League. Now, Castleford Tigers this season had a little bit of a shaky start. They started to find some form and began to look really dangerous in attack, and then it kind of dropped off towards the end of the season. I think Lee Radford in Super League is a very underrated coach. I feel like he does a pretty good job with a lot of stuff on his plate. Usually, he's very unfortunate when it comes to injuries, but he tends to deal with them quite well. He was the head coach of Hull FC in Super League as well for a long time, constantly plagued with injuries, and I think he managed that quite well. There was plenty of bad performances. It definitely wasn't a perfect coach, but I think for the most part, he's definitely decent, and I think that's, given what I did hear about the coaching staff for Samoa a few months ago, I think that this is a very solid addition, and I think that anyone that isn't aware of Lee Radford should be pleased about this. So another thing I definitely want to talk about is the backs for Samoa. The potential lineup is extremely dangerous. Now, of the 7 players in the backs, 5 of them are most likely going to be directly from the Penrith Panthers. And I'm not just saying that because of the team that they're from, but it's because of the players that they are. They are incredibly dangerous players. So, most likely, Tabuai-Fidel from the North Queensland Cowboys is going to start fullback. But you have players like May, who's going to start on one wing, To'o on the other, and then the centres are going to be Crichton and Tango. So, and by the way, with Tango, it's spelt Tego, and I did say it that way, but I've been hearing a lot of commentators say Tango, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if anyone is educated on that. But then you've also got Jerome Luai at number 6, and I don't care what anyone says, the guy knows how to run a game. As talented, as efficient, as unbelievably brilliant as Nathan Cleary is number 7 next to Luai. Take Cleary out the game, put in Sean O'Sullivan even. Luai knows how to run a game. People put too much disrespect on his name, it's ridiculous. The guy's going to be fine. And he's going to have Anthony Milford next to him, who I hope has a good tournament, was able to join the Newcastle Knights the back end of last season in the NRL, and hasn't had an amazing go of it. The Knights haven't been a particularly good team. They have bits of quality around them, but Milford, I guess, is just getting some fitness, getting used to the speed of the game again. So hopefully with so many quality players around him, in a better structure, with basically a Penrith Panthers structure around him, and someone like Fidel that can just fit into probably any team in the NRL, to be honest, that spine is going to be dangerous for Samoa. And I think I underrated them slightly, because I thought they would have been the 5th best team going into this tournament. And I have thought that they'd probably be the underdogs. Or not the underdog, sorry, the dark horse. Like, if you were going to take a punt on an outsider, it's Samoa. To me, they're not even an outsider anymore. In international rugby, I think it used to be, you'd say it's Australia, New Zealand, England. You put them in the top 3 easily. And then the last couple of years, especially since the 2017 World Cup, you throw Tonga into that and it becomes a top 4 and everyone else. I think with this kind of team, it's a top 5 and everyone else. I think this team is that good. They have the potential to win this competition. I don't think that that's an overstatement. As much as we might sit here and say the only team that could challenge Australia is New Zealand, this team can challenge anybody. I think the biggest question mark for me for this Samoa team is probably Anthony Milford, because I'm not 100% sure how it's going to work out. I mentioned before about him being at the Newcastle Knights and it not being the best team structurally, and he's essentially going to be thrown into the Penrith Panthers' backs. So he's going to be in a position to make things happen. One problem that he had in his few games at the Knights was that he had the opportunity to run at the line and make things happen. He just wasn't doing it. It's a little bit like what Sean Johnson's become. That's what he used to do. He used to just make things happen out of nowhere. So like first it was Benji Marshall, then it became Sean Johnson that did that, and Anthony Milford wasn't necessarily in that conversation of one of the next guys that does it constantly, but he had the ability to do that. But he just didn't do it. He could run at the line, but just didn't do it. So it might be a detriment to Samoa. They still have Jerome Luai on the other side of the ball that can make these things happen anyway. But it's going to take everybody. This kind of level, it's going to take everybody to make it happen. So hopefully he builds up a lot of confidence. Hopefully he built up some from the back end of last season. But he is kind of the biggest enigma for me in this Samoa team. The last thing I'll say on this team is I have really high expectations. Now, previously I thought they were just going to be a dark horse, but now they're a top team. Based on the players I know that other nations or the top nations could potentially pick, these guys are right up there. I think against Tonga and England they should be able to compete. I think they play each other 10 times, it's 5-5. And I think most of those games will be quite close. But against New Zealand, I think they'd maybe win 2 or 3 out of those 10 times. I think they have the potential to cause an upset against New Zealand. And I think if Samoa can get to the final against Australia, for example, they've got the quality to do it. That's the thing. Australia have been established for years. New Zealand have been established for years. England have never been the best, but have at least been established as competitors on the world stage, and Tonga are becoming that as well, in recent years at least. Samoa have a squad that can really compete with those guys. So I have high expectations, and I will say, if Samoa was to win the World Cup, I would not be that surprised. I'd think, well, I expected Australia, but in the knockout stages, if they upset Tonga, England, New Zealand, or Australia on the day, I would not be surprised at all. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have anything to add about the Samoa World Cup team, leave them in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, and also subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with future videos that are going to come soon on the Rugby League World Cup. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.